Hello, and back to another family channel. I'm Jacob Corner, and today we are talking everything Q3 stats. I'm very excited for this video. I'm also excited for the next video. You'll find out soon. That being said, we're going to go through a bunch of different things. I have a bunch of pictures to put up on the screen. We even have our usuals as well. So it should be a very good time. That being said, I did publish a book called Gunshot Residue. It's the first book in GSR, a romantic suspense trilogy. The second book, P49, comes out on November 3rd. This follows Alex as he believes his husband is cheating on him, and he realizes some secrets deserve to stay buried as his life is about to change. I am very excited. If you haven't read it yet, you totally can. It's available everywhere. It's also, if you want to read it on Kindle Unlimited, you can. They're short, does end on a cliffhanger. They're already married is a fun little trope in here, and some other fun stuff. If you want to watch the announced video, I'll link you over there. I'm obsessed. It was going to be my top 5 favorites of the quarter. However, it seemed like I need to talk about it now. Alright, we're going to go through month by month. I do have some photos to put up on the screen. We also already have our diagrams that I get through Storygraph if you're interested in getting these yourself as well. That being said, we're going to start with July. In July, I read 30 books. I read 8,345 pages. That came out to be an average of 3.87 stars, and I did read every single day that month. In July as well, my highest reading day was the 27th, which equaled 968 pages, which came out to be 5 books. The most books I've read in this quarter on a single day. Not been pretty good about that. Not gonna lie. In July, I also published some videos. These are some of my favorites. I'll go ahead and link you to a few down. I'll link you, like, all the videos will be linked down below, but the ones with stars are the ones that I love the most. I'll put I'll put some thumbnails around me in case you're curious and you want to check them out. In August was a fun month. I'm very excited. August, also, I'm really surprised I read as many books as I did, because August and September and October, I'm going to say November, I'm so busy working on writing stuff that reading really has kind of fallen away. I'm still trying to actively do it, and we still have like a lot of fun content being filmed for you guys, but yeah, it has fallen away. That being said, you're going to see a drop. In August, I read 24 books, which equaled to 5,132 pages, which came out to be an average of 3.7 stars. Still a pretty healthy star rating, I feel like. And I did read every single day of August as well. My top reading for August day was August 30th. I read 445 pages, which equated to about 3 books. In August, I posted a lot of fun videos. And so here are some of my favorites, I feel like. Then in September, I read 22 books, which equated to 5,893 pages, which came out to 3.35 stars. Really bad reading month for like ratings. And 29 to 30 days is what it came out to. Absolutely insane, in my opinion, when it comes down. Especially when you break this down 3s to 4s to 5s. I feel like a lot of my 3 stars do live here in this month. So it wasn't a great reading month for Jacob, like overall. I'm going to be honest with you. I had a few, I don't know. We'll talk about it. Then in September as well, my highest reading day was the 19th. That equated to 675 pages, which worked out to 3 books on that single day. These are some of the videos I posted, mostly just very excited to announce that I published the book. The announcement of the book and also the cover and stuff was probably my favorite video I've ever filmed, or one of my favorite videos, because obviously I get to do this over and over again. So like, it was my favorite, but now I'm like, oh my god, I love the cover for the sequel. So, you know. With that being said, we also need to run through my 3s, my 4s, my 5s, my 1s, no ratings, 9 yards. As I did have my 1 star this quarter. So we'll start with no ratings. I read 3 books that were no ratings. I don't have small books for my own books, but so when I put up the cover, it's only going to show one of them. However, Gunshot Residue and P49 are both in here. I think like it should be 4, or maybe because now they're equated to 5-star reads, I guess Gunshot Residue is, so maybe that's a lie. So this is P49, the 3rd book, which I haven't announced yet the title of, and then also whatever the picture is what it is over there. My 1 star was this. I only read one star. I read 6 2 stars. That's what this looks like. I read 37 3 stars. Now this did range from a 3 to a 3.75, but ultimately it was a 3 star. You know how damaging that is to the soul to be like, I only read 3. It was damaging, I'm not gonna lie. I read 16 4 stars, which is not horrible, but most of them are low 4s, so like they weren't even like a favorite, they're just good. Like, I'd highly recommend them. And then I read 13 5 stars, however, there was quite a few rereads in here, so like a lot of them don't even count. This is an image that I did. This is all 3 books. All 76 books I read this quarter. That equates to 19,371 pages. Obviously, these are small books, so it doesn't look like that, but there is, I promise. The average rating was a 3.6 stars. I would like that to be higher, and I read 91 out of 92 days. However, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of days here, as you guys can see when we went through the monthly spreads as well, that I personally only had like some days where I read like 5 pages, 6 pages or something. I count every page I read, so like it's documented, but I don't love that. I like reading like 50 pages a day. You know what I mean? So that part was hard. With that being said, we are going to go run through our favorites. We are going to start with our 4.5 and build our way up. I don't have a like favorite of the month. Oh my god, this is my favorite book. No book has been a contender for favorite of the year except for a single book, which I read back in January. That's crazy. And so we are here. Let's go ahead and run through the 5 ones that I did choose. These are all the ones that are possibilities to be on honorable mentions and or on that top 10 list at the end of the year. All these books I also do plan on buying at some point as well. These are highly recommended. First things first, let's talk We Are All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter. This follows a police deputy as 2 girls go missing on Torch Lies. She is connected to one of the girls very personally, and it is her job to solve this case. And so that's what she tries to do. And I loved the world that Karen Slaughter built here, the small town. I just love a good small town thriller. I'm not gonna lie. This one's brutal, which is, very true. Also, but it's not super brittle. It's not homophobic. And that's like one of my biggest complaints, Karen Slaughter. She wants to tackle all these like big topics and she wants to do it in a nuanced way. I read many of an article about her where she's talked about this. However, this is like one of the first books where like there's several gay characters and they're just kind of loved because they're gay. Like not because they're gay, but they're loved outside of that. And them being gay isn't like a plot twist or it's a killer motive or something. So, you know what? I have to respect the respect. It was a 4.5. I really liked the story that was being told. I also really, really liked the second half of this book, even though I'm going to keep all that to itself. It is a thriller. That's a 4.5. Everything else, in my opinion, they can get interchanged. We're going to go with the memoir because objectively it's a 5, but also, like, I feel weird putting them against the 3 other books that are fiction. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels odd. So, this is in its own degree, but however, if you're going to pick up a memoir, I would highly recommend picking up Am I Well Adjusted Despite Literally Everything by Alison Stoner. We'll have to mention that it's not reading like a full memoir in my opinion. There's enough story here, there's enough little tidbit information if you're from the time where she is that I feel like you could get something out of it. However, it's also very much to note that Person My Well Adjusted is more reading kind of self-helpy in a way. It's also having a lot of analytics about mental health. That is what she does for a living, and so it's very much true to that. I found that to be very much so in the epilogue. However, the whole story has it all. You do start from when she's very little to an adult, and you get a whole picture so you have an understanding on truly who Alison Stoner is. I adored it. It was a 5-star. I would highly recommend it. The rest of these are 5-star reads, and they all are very different reads from one another, so that's very exciting. Let's go ahead and start with the YA, and then we'll go into the adult books. The YA is no shocker. It's Sunrise on the Reaping, and yes, I know it's not popping up in any of these pictures. That's because I lost a small book. I don't know where it went. I thought I had one. I don't know if I do. But with Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, I adored Cambridge's story. It broke my fucking heart. I cried so hard while finishing this book. I absolutely adored it. I cannot wait for the movie. I think it's going to do particularly well. I think this is the only good thing about Suzanne Collins knowing that they're being adapted immediately is that some of these parts do feel very cinematic, which I don't know if everything from the original trilogy feels that way. Because, like, I mean, with Mockingjay, we all complain it's too fast. And here, everything just plays perfectly. All the characters are amazing. Haymitch, the backstory, everything that was contrived here was so beautifully well done. And then also, we cannot forget that epilogue. The epilogue will go down in history as one of my favorites I have ever read. I cried so hard. If you love the franchise that this is a part of, it is a must read. And technically this comes out after Ballad to Songbirds and Snake. However, just watch that movie. You don't need to read that book, I promise. You ain't missing much. Next, we have Margot's Got Money Troubles by Rui Thorpe. I think it's how you pronounce that. This follows Margot as she is a college student and she gets pregnant by her professor. Her professor begs her not to keep the baby. She keeps the baby. And now she has money troubles. She's living with 2 roommates. Her strange father ends up moving in and she becomes an OnlyFans star. This is one of those books where you have to love the main character, and I fucking adored Margot so much. I don't know why I loved Margot, but I did. I found her story to be very intoxicating. I also found it very hard to read because I wanted nothing but amazing things for her. A lot of those things weren't happening, so it was a hard time, but I adored it. I would highly recommend Margot's Got Money Trouble. I don't know if I'll watch the adaptation that's coming out soon, but I will be curious to see what it kind of looks like. Also, like, one of the best depictions of like a porn star / OnlyFans star type of thing. The whole point here, she's trying to build a brand, and so you get like a all these like little moments, and I really adored it. I think it's perfect. I loved it. And then we have Part of Your World by Abby Mendez, the only Abby Mendez I've given a 5. I've been a lot of 4s to Abby, don't get me wrong, but this is the only one that I would say is definitely worth your time. I loved these characters so much. I want to say her name is Alice. Am I correct in thinking Alexis Montgomery, and then Daniel is Alexis and Daniel are the ones that are the lovers here. Sorry, I'm horrible with names, and they're all very typical names, if you know what I mean, which is fine. Alexis is a doctor, a very famous doctor, and she ends up meeting Daniel after a funeral, and it was like a one-shot, and essentially they end up in a relationship, a situational ship. He's 10 years younger. He also lives on a farm. She's being held to a very high standard, and I loved their dynamics so much. This is one of those books where I felt like Alexis and Daniel both were perfect characters and both just loved each other so much and were doing everything in their power for one another. And I find with Abby Mendez books, because they are dual POV, that takes away a lot of the stakes. However, this book didn't need those, and they were still there. The stakes were still very high, and you understood. And it was very clear. There's only like a little bit of miscommunication, but it's more like a hiding some information. It's not even miscommunication. So I was a very particularly I was a big fan. The ending was perfect. So it was a 5-star. And obviously the last book we're going to talk for my 5 favorites of the quarter. I loved all these books. I would highly recommend all of them. I think they're all fucking phenomenal. I read a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So I go a bunch of videos down below in case you want to check them out. I obviously also wrote a book. So if you want to check that out. And yeah, that's this video. Let me know how many books you read this quarter, any big standouts, any books I need to put on my TBR immediately. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll talk to you all next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.